Go back and...
Yes.
And now,
okay.
And now you can share, I think, right?
All right, nice. Cool. One sec, let me remove this completely. Okay, so yeah, my talk is about rxjs and React Native. I guess it could work for React, but I do React Native, so that's what I will show. Just the boring stuff. I'm Pavlos Vinieratos on almost everything online. I work with Sense Health, and we do nice dates, an application for mental health. So I love Rx, rxjs or Rx Swift or whatever. If I could only use Rx from now on, I would be a very happy person. And basically what I use Rx for is replacing Redux or MobX or whatever. So this is the basic thing for Rx. Everything is a stream. So that's the whole idea of rxjs. Everything is a stream. So I can show you like how many of you have used Rx before or heard of it? Okay, cool. So not too many people are new to this. Oops, hello. Right. So we have, for example, like the very basic ones like map. So imagine this is just an array, right? We map 10 times x. So in comes 1, 2, 3, and out comes 10, 20, and 30. And these are just streams of events, like we said. So things can just happen whenever. Things like filter, for example, it's very simple. X bigger than 10. So if it is bigger than 10, it passes. If it doesn't, like 2 here, it will not show up on the bottom. But 60, for example, will happen. With Rx, you can also have like scan is like reduce. So like having an accumulator or something. Delay, for example, can be something interesting. So basically, we have a specific delay of like milliseconds, and when an event comes, before it appears on the output stream, it has this delay. Or you can have the bounce, for example, where if there's an event, it will happen in 10 milliseconds, but if there is another event close to it, it will not, like the first one will be skipped and the second one will appear. So we have a bunch of interesting like operators in Rx that you can use and basically manipulate this kind of array that we have, this stream. But then we can do some interesting stuff like merge or race, for example. So race is a simple one. We have 3 streams coming in, and whichever one is the first one to have an event, that's the one that will appear at in the output. So if the 0 comes first, then that's the one that will be output from then on. And if there's another one, then that one is the winner. Or you can have things like merge. Yeah, am I going too fast, or most people know this? Okay, cool. Right, so merge, we just get 2 inputs or as many as we want, and both of them will be in the output in the exact same like order that they happen. All right, so yeah, that's the basic of rxjs. There's this library from this guy, which actually he works in Amsterdam now, so that's cool. And this is used to connect rxjs with React Native. I will not show all of the code right now, but the code is very simple. It's like just a few files, just doing the main setup. But this is what I use for connecting this. So I will show you this. Right, so let's go to the demo time. What we will make is 3 screens. One will be just a counter, like a button to add and decrease, like increase, decrease. A step counter, which is, we have 2 counters. One is the step that the other counter will increase by, right? And then a sequence detector that we have like a D-pad, up, down, left, right, and then we detect a sequence, for example. So all of them very simple examples, and I'm sure all of you understand how to make it in like hooks or whatever, but we will just make it with Rx just to see how it works. Right, so let's actually do this. So I have here a screen for count, which is empty right now. So that's just a basic component, nothing inside it. A controller for the Rx part, which again has nothing inside it. And now let's make this thing work. So just basic stuff. Let's add like a text, whatever, count, and the actual thing. So we will make this. And then we want 2 buttons, which can be like this. And they will do something, let's call it on plus. Right, and then we can copy this and do this. Right, so this is what we want to have in the end. Of course, we need to make these functions and everything. So the way we make this is basically we can, let's call it state, or if it's too confusing, we can name it something else, doesn't matter. But basically we connect the component that we have, the count component, to the controller that we will make above it. So we will just connect it like this. If any of you have any like questions for like this, just let me know. Or if I'm doing something too fast, too slow, whatever. Right, so at this point, this hook will give us exactly what we want. It will give us the count and on plus and on minus after we have finished our controller. And then at this point, we will be ready to work with this component. So let's make the controller. So to make the controller, basically we want inputs, which are the buttons, and then we want some kind of output, which is the count. So the way we make the input is we can have a subject. Subject, I guess probably most of you know, but it's like an observable and observer at the same time. So basically, imagine it's a string that we can just fire an event whenever we want. So at this point, if we have it like this on plus, and if I export it here, what this will do is this state will have an on plus in here, and this on plus, when it's called from the button, it will fire an event of no value, but that's what we want. So let's make the minus, right? And then at this point, we want basically count here. Is this too small, too big? Is fine, right? Too late to ask, right? Right. So what will count be? So the whole idea is that on plus, if it's a stream like this, at some point I will click this button, and something will happen. And what will happen is basically we want our count to start from 0, and then at some point when we click the button, we want it to become 1, right? And then just keep going like this. And then we want something similar for the on minus. If it happens, then we want it to go down 1. So the way we can do this is basically if we merge the 2 inputs that we want, so on minus and on plus, for example. At this point, we have this stream, basically. Let me draw this here so we have everything nicely. We have something like that, for example, where on plus will be a stream, and count, if we just merge them, is basically like we saw before in the Rx marble thing. It will be something like this, right? So we have a new stream of some events happening, which are the button clicks, but we don't have any more information about this. So the idea is that we can basically map these buttons to become values like +1 and -1. So if we do, I will just write this and then I can explain. So we can map -1 to the minus input, and then for this one we can have +1. Oops. Right. So at this point we made this into. Whoops. Sorry. We made this into something like this. Here we would have, let's say, +1, and then this event would be -1. Does that make sense? Right. So the way this pipe is, well, I guess most of you know, but basically it's just it accepts infinite operators that we can just apply on this stream. So after we have these events already, then we can basically add them all together. So if we have scan here and we have our accumulator and then our value, which the accumulator, we can start it from 0 because we want the first value to be 0. And then basically whenever we have, the V will be either plus or -1. So what we need to do is just, add the two together, and that should be enough. So at this point, if I export all of these things, so combined props accepts two arguments. The first one is the outputs, so like observables, and then underneath it is the observers, I guess. So we need to export them separately. But if I save this, let's see if this will happen. Right, we get a nice error because basically this is not initialized. So the count will actually still have this form here. It will be like this. We have no value in the beginning, so it doesn't know what to do. So basically we can just fix this by just telling it, your first value is 0, and then hopefully it will work. Yeah. So now we have this super tiny text, but it works, right? Makes sense. So that's a nice way to kind of make this in rxjs. Comparing it to the way we would do it with hooks, for example, or any other way, is in my experience that basically having it separately like this in a component and in a controller is very easy to test them separately. So for the component, I usually have a storybook, and then I can just design the component and the UI separately. And then for the component, I have tests that test, basically give it all of the inputs and all of the outputs. And then I know that if both of them work, then there's no way to get a bug unless I mistype something in the here, where I export them or where I connect them basically. So that's a nice separation, I find. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is very, very similar and very simple. So we can go to the stepped count. So I have copied the code that we have for the counter. So I guess if I run this, we have the count like we had it. And to have, we would like to basically have this count next to it. That will be the step. So instead of, whenever I click more, instead of going +1, it will go plus whatever the other stepper is. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right, so basically we can just copy this whole thing, name it step, put here step, and let's do here step. Right, so this is what we want. Let's also add this already. On step minus, on step plus, and step. Right, so this is what we want to have, and now we just need to create it in the controller. So very similarly, we have the two on plus and minus. We create the same for the step. So basically, the way I use Rx with React Native is that for every button or for everything that could be an input, like a fetch or whatever, I usually have like a subject or getting it from some other observable somewhere. And then everything that is an output, like this count or the background color, if it changes or whatever else changes, I have it as one observable. So if we want to add the step, we will add this here. We will add the on step minus and on step plus. Right, and now we need to create the step. So the step is basically just a counter, right? So I will just copy this and just name it step. I will reconnect the correct inputs. So if I just save it like this, we basically have two independent counters that, amazing. So the whole idea is, like we said, we want, if step is, for example, 3, whenever I press this more, it should go to 8 instead of 5. So the way we can do that with streams is that we can have take latest, for example, or with latest from, right? So this basically will get the stream that we give it here, and it will grab the latest value, the value that happened last, and then it will return it to us as a value. So instead of having here x, which was before +1 and -1, now we have kind of a tuple, which is the value that we would get anyway, and then it would be the step. So the latest value of the step, like we had. So basically, all we have to do here is just multiply these two. So whenever we have +1 or -1, now we have -3 or whatever. So if I save this, let's try. So if it's 0, well, it goes +0, and if I go 4, then it increases by that. So again, very simple, very nice and easy. Now I will go down. Okay. Right. Does that make sense? Is that easier than hooks, harder than hooks? What's the idea? Right. Do we have any questions so far? Or are we good?
Do you have 50 findings in code?
Yeah. Well, I like it. I don't know. Yeah, was there a question?
How can we claim this from step connecting to the S variable?
To this one, you mean?
Yeah.
Right, so basically, let's draw here, for example. So if we had a count here, count if let's say we don't have this, and this is just with x. So count is basically a stream that gets a plus or a minus event, right? So it would be, let's say, plus, or, well, it doesn't work here, let's say minus. So when we put this operator with latest, basically we convert this to something like that. Instead of just plus, it gets something like a tuple here, which gets the plus, and then it just adds in there the latest event from the other stream, right? So then, yeah, basically this is what we would get, yeah. So it would be like a minus and then the same S, right? So basically, whenever we add any operator, anything that's underneath it is going to be affected. Right, so I could have done, for example, this and keep it as we had it here, for example, and then get the latest, and then somehow later do the multiplication or whatever, right? Right, okay, so that's done. So let's do the sequence detector. So the sequence detector is well, I have like an up-down, left-right thing here, very simple. And the idea is that we have these 4 buttons and we want to have like a sequence detector, like the thing says. So whenever I press, for example, like I have here, up, left, down, right, I want it to say, you know, you have a circle or something like that. And then I have the Konami code too, because why not? Right, so let's make this. Like with what we have now, do people like kind of know what's going to happen here roughly, or yes, no? No one answered? So. All right, well, that's good, I guess. All right, so let's do this. So again, like before, we want a text of sequence, let's say sequence so far, so we can actually see what we are clicking, and then whenever we detect the full selection, the full sequence, then we can show that we found it. So let's do sequence, let's do it like this, so far. And then we can have another one that we will say sequence name, something like that, and then we can say sequence name. Right, so what we want here is to just add these two, sequence name and sequence so far. Right, so that's all the UI that we want, and let's go make the component. Right. So I already have the directions here, so just to like reuse this, and I already have the subjects for the inputs for the buttons. So the buttons, if you see here, I have the 4 buttons amazingly laid out, and they just are connecting to up, down, left, and right. So what we want here is to have sequence so far and sequence name. All right, so let's make it. So the first thing we can do here is do the sequence so far, because that's the easy one, I guess. And that's the one that's needed first. So the idea is that we will merge again all buttons, make sure that they return to us, instead of just an event of like a button was clicked, they will return to us left, right, blah, blah, blah. So we will do something similar like before. We merge all of these left, and this will be mapped to what is it? Directions left, right. So we can do this, right, let's do up and down, okay. All right, so this, at this point we have, again, a sequence that gets all of the buttons. So if I click up, down, we will have a new stream with a direction or a string that says left and then says down, or up, down, whatever I said before. Right, so basically what we want is to keep a sequence of all of this, an array of all of these. So we will, again, very similar to before, we will do a scan, and we will have an accumulator, and then our new value, for example. And basically what we need to do is we will get whatever the accumulator had, and we will just add the new value in there. And we will start this with the empty array, of course, and then we can also give it the initial array here. So at this point, we can let's actually print this out. Maybe I need to write the other one too. Right, okay. let's remove this. Oops. All right, so if I click up, then we see that this keeps growing. So it would be a nice way to basically have, let's do a join here just to print it a little bit nicer. It would be nice to, before detecting, to kind of reset this thing. So, every 2 seconds or something, if I don't click anything, it will just reset. So the way we would add this is basically we need to make a new observable that we can call sequence so far reset. Why not? And this will basically be will be this thing again, but then we will have a debounce. So because we will need this thing again, we can just grab it from here and extract it into a new one that we can call direction, for example. And now we have a stream that is called direction that has everything that we need. And then here we can just replace this whole thing with direction. And then same thing here, it will be direction. And to this we will just add a debound time of like 2 seconds or something. So at this point we have, every time I click something, it will start counting for 2 seconds and then it should reset. So the way to reset this is basically we need to change this sequence so far because that's the thing that we want to reset. So we need to somehow get this input from the reset observable here, the reset stream. So again, we need to basically merge the direction that we had before and merge it with the sequence so far reset. Right, so direction gives us left, down, blah, 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 like we said before. And reset, we can tell it to give us basically like something unique. So in this case, it can just be null. So we know that whenever we get null, it's time to reset our array. So basically, the thing we need to change is go in this scan that we have, that we are like calculating our array. And if the value is null, then we can just say return the empty array. If not, then we keep doing what we were doing. So let's save it and test this. So I click up, and let's wait. Right, and then it resets. So that's what we want to do. That's nice. And now we still have to find this, we still have to calculate this detector. So whenever we click up, left, down, right, this bottom thing here will show us, we did a circle. Right. So we have sequence name. Let's export this already. I don't know why it's not auto-completing here. Sequence name. All right, so we have this stream of arrays above. So that's the one that we need to kind of manipulate, and then based on the sequences that we have here, we can just like match it or something. We can make a function, but for now we can just do it, kind of more silly. So what we want is we get the sequence so far, and then we need to basically map over it in order to, turn this array that we have of directions into a string that tells us circle or no. So what we need to do is basically get this array that we have, for example, here. And very simply, we can just say, if it's equals to, if the array is equal to sequences, what is it, square, okay? Then we want it to return square. And if not, then we can just return, I don't know, the empty string. We can do the same, for example, with the other one. Okay. Right, something like that. So at this point, we have everything connected already. We have this exported. We have this shown down here. So if I go ahead and click up, left, down, right, now we have this popping up here. And then when it resets, of course, this one resets also because it depends on that one. I will not do the Konami because it's too long now, but whatever. But yeah, that's the whole idea with this with Rx and React Native. Basically, you know, we have all of the logic in one place, all of the component and UI in one place, and we can just connect them. We can just connect, you know, everything that's an input or an output in the component, or even animations and values of animations with just using Rx and no other, you know, like Redux or whatever. Do we have like a little bit more, like 5 minutes or something? Right, so just very quickly, I want to show you the tests here. So there's something that's called marble tests. So you get basically this thing that we drew here, and you turn it into an actual test. So I have. Let's just show it instead of writing it. So let me do this. I'll just copy paste this. So it needs a little bit of a modification to do this. I made a hook here that just basically wraps the other hook. And the only difference is that instead of running this combine props that is needed, I just return an object with inputs and outputs, and my hook is doing the combination. And this is just so that I can, in the test, I can just give it the input here and grab the output here and then test all of them. So I will go to the count test, and let's just copy paste this here. Right. Right, so for example, I have this here, this test, or let's do this one, which is even nicer. So I give it a marble test, I guess, or a marble string, or whatever you want to call it, which means whenever there's an X, it means that I press the plus button. Whenever there's an X here, it means that I press the minus button. And on the bottom is the value that we should get. So in the beginning, it should be 0. And then you see that, you know, here I have clicked plus, so I should get 1, and then minus again, so I should get 0, blah, 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 up to 4. This void map and number map is just like a silly thing that I made that basically maps the character I put in this string to an actual value. So the number is just a number, and true, false, you know, nothing special. And then basically I grab the controller from here, from the other file. Just keep it on plus on minus. And I grab from the controller, I grab the output, and then I grab the count from that. So that's my output, and basically I want it to be, you know, to be the same. So we can just run this just to like prove that it works. So let's do that. Right, of course it passes, but for example, if I go here and tell it that you know, this should be 3 for some reason, and save this, then I will get, you know, I get specifically here. I don't know if it's does this work? No, okay. Well, it says the thing that I should be getting and the thing that I am actually getting. So you can see the specific step that something went wrong, and then it also has well, that's all that it has. But from this you can like see that something is wrong in your logic, and then you can go fix it before you connect it to your component. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Find me on Twitter or whatever. Thank you. And if you have any questions, otherwise, yeah. Yeah, sure.
What I remember from André Stelz's lecture was that subject was a bit of a code smell.
Okay.
Like, how do you feel about that?
But for me, I don't have a problem with it. Like I use it, and I've seen that React has this nice, like from event that you can just grab like an event listener or whatever it's called, and make an observable out of it. But with React Native, there's nothing like that. So the easiest thing for me was just to use subject. I haven't found like a nicer, easier way for now. I'm sure there might be like another one. So if you have anything to suggest, let me know. But yeah, I don't find it like a problem, I guess.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Are there any more questions? No, there's another one.
Can you show the test again, unit test, how it works with the component?
This one?
Yeah, the component.
Okay.
Yes. So how does the events go to the component? I couldn't catch up.
So this, it doesn't touch the component at all. So this is just testing the controller here. And basically this controller, if you see in this, let's put it like this. So the controller here, it gets a container, which is kind of the component. And you see I give it a null. So basically I'm just testing this part of the code, everything that's in the controller, and nothing more. So at this test doesn't touch the component at all. The component is usually like tested or designed in storybook, and then they are kind of separately tested. And
the code and all, is it written by you or is it from the package?
This one you mean?
The code you are passing the string.
The code, right. So this is from a library that's it's somewhere here.
Just marbles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's just marbles and there's an Rx marble, something like that. Basically, it's this idea of like hot and cold observables. Yeah. For now, let's just say it's a way to make this string into an actual thing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, any more questions? All right, another one.
You're also passing the props to your hook?
To the controller?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Can you also respond to like prop changes in your controller?
Yeah. So basically you can have, well, I didn't show it here, but yeah, you can basically, there's a function that you can get changes from a prop and make it, like turn it into a stream or an observable. So this, on plus, it could have been like, instead of new subject, it could have been like, I don't know, new props dot, I don't know, make stream or whatever. Like I don't remember the exact thing, but it's in this library that it allows you to do this, yeah. And usually this is used if you pass props from like something outside that doesn't connect to your Rx part. So then, you still need to like be able to see this and react to this.
Cool, thanks.
Any more questions?
That's it?
All right.
All right, cool, thanks.
You still get to have a task in your hand.
Yeah, with, I had some stuff here that apparently no one saw. Okay, whatever. I don't know how to give it. Should we just like, I don't know. Let's decide while the second one is happening.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's give a hand to Pavlos. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So basically, I think we can get a 5 minutes break while we get Garrett set it up on stage, and feel free to grab a drink, walk around. If you walk around, ask maybe Jeff to help you with that. Yeah.
Quick question: can I get on the Wi-Fi here?
Yeah.
Do you have a guest Wi-Fi?
Yeah. So you, the password?
Sorry?
Mendigus guest.
Mendix guest. Somebody shouting. What's your favorite password?
No one just like to get the...
It was so simple. I thought it was way too simple.
You see it?
Yeah, I understand. But I didn't know.
Anybody a call below 5? Call below 5.
Was it interesting or?